Record. There we go. Right. So I'll obviously close down the chat for a minute, and then obviously we can obviously go over that in a bit. So that's good. Right. Oh, just pull that down here. Sorry, I'm just sorting my screen out. Right, here we go. So let's get started. Friday. Um, right. What happened last night? First of all, everyone would have been aware of it. I had lots of messages. Obviously, gold had this big tanker here. Mentioned yesterday, or I mentioned, sorry, last week about how obviously how hedge funds work, and obviously what they use gold as. They don't completely use it like that, but they use it as a hedge. All right. So if they're invested in, stocks, and their stocks obviously start to drop, not because of the company's, performance, but because of just a speech or a change of outlook, a bit like obviously what's been happening with Greenland. No one's been in control of it. So that's kind of been something that everybody's that they can't control. So obviously what ends up happening, stock markets get hit. And then obviously what do hedge funds do? They don't close positions, all right, because they've got a long-term outlook. That's why you cannot compare institution to retail. And I know that everyone bangs on about, oh, I trade institution, I do. So we don't. You can't, because obviously you would have to be completely different. You wouldn't even look at your charts every day. You'd be looking at news, outlook, numbers, data. That's all. So what they do, if it's a short term, hit on the stock market, which has been happening a lot. I mean, gold does not the last year and a half, gold does not trade like it's been trading. But there's been so much, turmoil that it's just been like a rocket. So what they did do, and I've explained this before, I draw it terribly every time, oh, you got your, scales here, yeah? All right, some of you have been in here a long time, will, know. So if this is your, stocks and they're starting to drop, yeah, they're getting heavier, right? This is, starting to tilt that way. What do they do to balance it out? They short term buy the, safest asset, gold, all right? And then that balances it, yeah? And then what ends up happening is, as soon as obviously the scales start to tilt this way, all right, so stocks obviously start to come back up. Gold normally will hold like it is now. It's holding, or it's climbing still. That's when, once they are happy and comfortable, that's when they will take this profit here. All right, and that's all it is. If we go back to now, if we go back to the stock markets, all right, I've now obviously they took a bit of a hit as well yesterday, but look at the recovery, we've obviously had since I think Greenland was about here. Stocks have recovered. Stocks, Greenland, yeah, I know that obviously yesterday took a bit of a hit, and obviously SPX stocks recovered. So that's obviously what we've got to look, for, and that's why we monitor the stock market as well as, the FX markets, because everything's interlinked, together. You'll find with a really strong dollar, we're going to have a really strong stock market. Just because obviously, what is the dollar made out of? It's made of all the companies that are obviously, transferring money. All right. So that's obviously, what happened yesterday was a little bit of an influx, not major, but a little bit of an influx of some profit taking. And obviously that's what caught everybody yesterday. So I'm kind of in two minds on the dollar, and that's why I always say to everyone to play, Fridays, safe. All right. So my week has been epic. We've smashed it as well this morning. I actually think we could even beat both of these days today if we have a really good afternoon. However, what I like to do, and what is a common kind of journey of everyone, is they'll be patient, 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 and then blow it all on a Friday. So what we want to do is make sure, look, if we're in profit, it doesn't matter where you are starting your journey. If you're starting it this week, right? If this is your first profitable week, congratulations, but make sure it's a change. All right, make sure this is the last time or the first and last time that it's your first profitable week. Because if you stick to a routine, you stick to strategy, you're gonna have them week in, week out. Even if you go green, red, green, you're still profitable. So this is obviously the things that I want everyone to work on. I know obviously a lot of you, well, not a lot of you, a few of you went a bit crazy on FOMC, and obviously, but you understand why, all right? It's okay to, make mistakes. We're only human, but there is a clicking point where you've had enough, all right? Mine was a big one. I lost a lot, all right? But I'd had enough. I just didn't want to lose anymore. It's either I was going to quit or I was going to do it properly. Now, what that clicking point did for me was it meant that I could kind of separate myself from the monetary value. Um, and once I did that, and I just focused, I mean, there wasn't even journals like this back then. You had to handwrite it or you had to have an Excel spreadsheet. And then now we've got journals and journals and journals. There's loads. There's TradeTab, there's TradeZilla, there's my Vexbook. There's everything. So you've just got to just make sure that you focus on every single week that you're pulling money out, and it doesn't matter if it's 10 quid or 8 quid. I've had two chats with people this week, and this is another thing that I really, really want to bring up that I promise you will go onto the charts. So everyone has a goal, all right, a target, all right. It might be one person was, he wanted to turn his account from 5k to 10k. Another guy was, he wanted, and then this is two, scenarios here. Another guy here, he wanted to turn his account from 4k. He's a bit heavy on risk to 25. All right. Now I told both of them to, stop. All right. Because they both went past it. So the guy on 5 turned his account 13. Hopefully he's not trading today. He told me he wasn't. So, what did I tell him? Withdraw 3 and don't trade today. If you're happy, you are happy. Stop. The other one told him to stop, withdraw it, take it back to 4K. I'm not going to obviously tell you what happened to his, but obviously it wasn't a very happy story. But what the danger is, right? 9 times out of 10, if you got a target, you will hit it. But what seems to be, it's not human nature. It seems to be an FX trader's nature where if they've got a target, they beat it, they want to continue it. They want to get it higher. They want to trade more. And obviously that's when you've got no target then. You've got no goal. So you just freestyling it with like no stability. And the stability and routine you've used to get from say for example 5k to 10k, you're not really using that. Yeah, you're a bit loose, you've got extra profit to play with, and that's the danger. So I definitely would, even if you hit your target after a week and a half, right, stop, because it's your goal every month is to you've got a number in your head, based on obviously your trading account. You've got to be realistic, but you've got a number in your head and you want to hit that. All right. So once you've hit it, why do you want to carry on? Like I was explaining, it's okay to risk a bit more if you're only risking that bit more for say 10 days a month as opposed to 21 or 22. That's okay. But you can obviously analyze risk how you want to. But yeah, where we are here to obviously have a target, and obviously once it's achieved, step back, be happy, because What the hardest thing at the beginning is not building your first profitable week, it's having your first profitable month. And then you want your first profitable quarter. And then you want your first profitable 2 quarters, 3 quarters, first profitable year. Once you're done a year, you are set forever because you will be in such a good routine. Right. Enough of that. Hopefully, everyone will, take it all in. So that's obviously why Friday, to anticipate gold, climbing. Let's go through everything. So, the yields flying high. This is all based on, interest rate speculation. All right, we're almost buying the rumor, selling the fact. All right, so there's a lot of hype, rumor. Jerome Powell yesterday, or someone come out and said that he wasn't going to raise interest rates for three more, or reduce interest rates for three more quarters. So yeah, it's whether that happens or not, But yeah, basically, my outlook is dollar still in a downtrend. I would say that we have got to look probably to start. Our outlook will change here. All right. If this breaks above here, yes, I will change outlook because we'll be looking at something, like this. But this is why we don't have many stop losses hit because we're going with trend. All right, we're going with our overall, macros. What's happened? What's happened like yesterday is, short-term outlooks. It's not the overall outlook, and obviously that's why we can, ride waves. Everyone, well, should have been out of their trades yesterday before that huge drop hit. So that's obviously why, how and why we, manage ourselves, around everything. So yeah, but going through, some of the trades here, we got gold. I'm pretty happy. I do think this will hit. Even if we are starting a downtrend, it's got to kind of come back up to here. And obviously, overall is, you cannot deny gold is not in a downtrend. Anyone who thinks it is needs their eyes tested. Yes, if you want to scalp, you could argue that trend has changed, but it's not really because it's equaling this, low. This has got to break. All right. This level here has got to break, and probably this one too. Before anyone's gonna think, right, you know what? But I don't think you can ever, or right now, gold. I don't think you can, look to sell it. It's scary to sell it, and obviously, FOMC would approve that. You just want to just ride it. It's I always think when it drops like this, it's a good place to buy, because you might not get that opportunity again. If you look here, we've had this drop here, but apart from that, it's just ridden all the way. If you were trying to sell it, there is no way out. It's just up. So that's obviously gold. We then had, I think, secondly was USDJPY. We actually everything was in the zones. Remember, I've gone slightly more aggressive. I've kept that up this week. I haven't changed it. I might dial it back a bit, but obviously we'll see. Mm. So, USDJPY, running, nicely in profit, happy with that one. GBP USD running nicely in profit, happy with that one. Euro USD we entered down here, running nicely in profit, happy with that one. And AUD USD as well, running, small. Nothing's moving crazy, but we've been on the right, side of everything. And obviously, yeah, sometimes it's better not to hold. I'm a great believer. I'm going to do a video on this because I believe, because I had, I always get asked this question, why don't you hold to TP? Um, and it's because of obviously what I've, been, learning about and how, hedge funds, they don't have stop losses, they don't have take profits. All right. They will keep riding something. All right. We obviously don't do that because we're day. That's what I've realized. That's what I'm good at. But what a hedge fund will do that they will not have a take profits. They're worried they're going to miss out on this. But at the same time, they don't sell at the top. All right, they will wait for trend to do this, and then they will, sell. All right, so but although I agree with obviously that kind of thesis, you can't go wrong if data's good, if everything's good. They're pretty safe. They've obviously got their a small portion of their portfolio which is very very high risk, but it is tiny. It's very very small. Um, but I do believe in, stop losses in intraday trading because, you obviously that is by far the most common bad habit that I, spot, is that no one can hold a, stop loss, right? Like I'd say with everyone, if I'd see your journal, I want to see red days and you be happy. All right, that is when I know that you've become a trader. Because if you can have a red day, look and smile at it, thinking, what, the market got me there, the market got me there, then you've changed. All right, you've now flipped into that trader who is happy to give money back, but wants to take a bit more. All right. And obviously that was my really, really hard thing. I could go win, 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 but I couldn't take that loss. If it was the wrong time, if say for example I was up on a day, say for example a grand, and I took a £500, loss, my ego had to try and make that back. Not every time, but I'd say more times than, not. It's my ego, like, oh, I don't want to give this money back. I've made it, and that's, one thing that you gotta, it's the only thing. I genuinely believe trading is that easy. It's the only thing. If you can swallow a loss, you're probably 80% there. 80%. I would love to see a journal which is, like I'd said, wins say 20 quid, losses 10 quid, and you've got 10 losses, in a month and 10 wins, but you'd say to me, you know what, I'm in control, I've got this done. That to me is an epic journal. I'd rather see that than an all green one because I know that you're swallowing it. So yeah, these are all things to kind of think about. All right. Kim, would you let the trades run still? Sorry, I'm going through the chat now. So yeah, I mean, I don't see why I've closed out personally, but I don't see why you wouldn't let them run. I mean, I have the, zones marked up. I'd just like to obviously take what I need and then I'm out, and I've taken probably double what I've needed this morning, if I'm honest, before 8 a.m. It's crazy. So brilliant way to wake up. Paul, it is a human trait. It's greed. We all suffer from it at some time. Yes, you know. That's the issue is, and I promise you, if you can control it, then you'll have, nothing holding you back, so yeah, just be aware of that. Let's have a look, Dan. Drew, well, when you're winning, you just want to keep winning. Yep. I'm the same. Can't take it. Loss yesterday. Gold blew my account. Working on it. Yeah. Yeah, basically, don't feel. I'm glad that you can openly, speak about it because there'll be lots of guys in here who hide it, but I promise you it's the biggest trait. All right. There's this statistic that you can have out of 100 trades, right? You can have 99 wins, and if you have one loss, this is the average trader times one, loss, it will equal zero. Because what ends up happening is win, 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 loss, and everything. Everyone increases, 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 increases. And think about all this hard work you've done to get here. All right. But sometimes this journey here is luck. All right. And actually, the true you comes out when you're under a bit of pressure. There's one person I've been working on this really, really hard with this month, and obviously he's doing really, really well. But obviously, it's just about learning because there's no excuse really. If you got the daily or if you got session target, that's a profit target and a loss, kind of final. You've got a parachute, you've got two chords. That's like your chord number two, where it's like, you know what, wear out, start again tomorrow. Um, you've got to have that, so, session, maximum loss, like. Some of you, and I mentioned this to another person, I can't remember his name, so apologies. He made last week on USDJPY on Friday, I think about 2 grand. All right, smashed it. So took his 1K account to about 3K. And I go, right, you've got this head start now. You've got such a good head start because you now want to reduce your, say, because he wanted to risk a bit more, he didn't mind it. So you want to reduce your maximum daily lost to like 400. All right. And then you've then got to, think about it. You can lose 5 days on the trot and you're still at break even. Now, the chances of you, losing 5 days are, slim. But obviously, that's, how you've got to kind of, think about it. So if you have that big win, that's not the time to increase risk. That's the time to reduce risk and utilize it as right. I've got this huge buffer now. Let's go. This is brilliant. Yeah. So, yeah. Um, Trading tests your human traits, says it's hard sometimes. Okay, I played safe and close out with good blue numbers. That's what we like to hear, Kim. Good blue numbers. Right, I've got one more school run, and then I'll be back here. But if we have a quick flick through, if we have a quick flick through, so we've got AD USD, nice bit of profit there. GBP USD, nice bit of profit. Euro, we're in profit. Gold, profit still, and USDJPY, a little bit of profit. And so, yeah, hopefully everyone is happy. And yeah, I will. Let's just read these quickly. Noel, in these turbulent times, would you enter towards the bottom of your zones like gold this morning? It hasn't hit 518. Look, the zones are the zones anywhere in there. Gold, like I'd said, I think the only reason everyone panics is because they over risk on it. So if you're trading, for example, zero point 0.1 on currencies, trade 0.01 on gold, just reduce your risk right down, because then you won't be worried about it. I promise you, you won't stress about it because it's going to be moving equally like currencies. Aki, I've been a break-even trader for a while, like the basket of trades and close when in profit. Yeah, think of it as a collective, all right. And obviously, once you're in some good profit, you're happy, close out, and you get used to swallowing a loss. It's very, very rare now. I see guys close their winners and obviously hold their losses. If you treat it like a basket, like you've explained, that's a good way of doing it. Aggregate, once it aggregates high, it's good. So yeah, but appreciate everyone. I've got a school run to go to, and yeah, let's smash it. We've already halfway there, so just got this afternoon now. Have a good one, guys.